My PC is being super loud today, so sorry if you can hear it during this video, but today I have a really cool thing I want to talk about. I didn't upload yesterday because I couldn't find anything. However, I was scrolling through Twitter and found something that got mentioned that was pretty interesting. So, when we look at the top 10 in Geometry Dash, most people who beat a level in this range gets a ton of attention put onto them. You pretty much know if someone beats Society, or Thinking Space 2, or Flame War, Amethyst, or Tidal Wave, or Orbit, or Nullscapes, or Quantum Processing. You hear about it all the time, right? Because the top 10 is so crazy right now. Your average person with enough time can't just beat these levels usually, okay? It is very, very, very rare to see someone with very little achievements randomly come out and beat something like this. And that's what makes this video very interesting, because we're going to talk about someone who I've seen get pretty much no attention. However, they recently beat not just a top 10 in the form of Every End, it wasn't Every End, not Booba Wamba at 9, not Quantius Processing at 8, but actually Nullscapes at 7. To put that into perspective, I was begged to cover Dovin and Seraguiz, or however you say that guy's name. I was begged to cover them in a video because of how incredible beating Quantius Processing is, and we've seen someone beat a level harder than this with little to no attention. And the person we are talking about is Space RS, who is now the best player in Serbia, pretty much. And as you can see, the reason why I find this progress incredible is the fact that this account is crazy. No legacies complete, no extendeds complete, and the only three main lists that we have is Slaughterhouse, Cuban Circles, and Acheron. And then now we're seeing Nullscapes, and we know this guy's legit because even though the record hasn't been accepted, we saw this 77% record get accepted, so why would he hack 100%? Doesn't make sense, right? It's going to be legit and it's going to be accepted. This also, funnily enough, makes him the best person with space in their name, which I think is a cool fun fact. And yeah, this is the person's profile, Space RS, and only 512 subscribers. I'm subscribing right now, because what do you mean 512 and you've beaten Nullscapes of all things, the thing that made Zoink spend 80,000 attempts on and struggle immensely, and you have 500 subscribers, and I bet you it was nowhere close to that when they beat Nullscapes. It was probably like 400 or maybe even less. This is such a crazy achievement. And we're looking at oldest here, and we can see the first stuff here is just some random stuff, right? Some normal progress without knowing too much about them. And then we just see a bunch of progress on stuff like Cuban Circles, Slaughterhouse, and then we see them beat Slaughterhouse? Like, what? And then a little after, start making Acheron progress? It just doesn't make sense. It was all so quickly. I mean, I get it's the span of a couple of years, but like, Acheron was 2 months ago, beating 2.1 Acheron. And in the span of 2 months to then beat Nullscapes, right? It just doesn't, it just doesn't seem possible. How? Looking here, we can see that it took 173,000 attempts in 3 months, which I want to point out that is some levels of dedication, okay? For that little time span to sink in that many attempts, keep in mind Zoink was on this for months and months and months and months and months, and he has less than half of this attempt count. So that is pure dedication to the grind, okay? We can see the opinion here is fine where it is and definitely harder than 2.1 Acheron, which is another thing that should be mentioned. The version of Acheron that got beat was the 2.1 version and not the 2.2 version, which is significantly harder to most people. And yeah, I'll let this just play out because I just don't know how this is possible. And what I think is more important is that this player, Space, could be a new contender for a top player. Now, I know that's really, really hard to say right now because we only have a couple completions and then Nullscapes, right? But there's a good chance that Space could. For example, I don't know what his actual name is. I think it's Mad Dog. I'll put up the guy I'm talking about on screen now. But this guy has went on to state multiple times a good fact that basically a lot of people have the raw skill to be the #1 player or like in the top 3 best players. However, they don't act on it, so they don't gain the achievements because it's mostly skill when it comes to the game, but also you need to have the passion, you need to have the grind. That's how Zoink has been able to stay top 1 in people's minds for so long. And this is what you want to see if you're trying to look for the next top player. Over 170,000 attempts in 3 months is definitely the time, and it's shown to not just be a one-trick wonder. Acheron, Slaughterhouse, the Coop and Circles, these are all very raw, difficult levels, right? So it's crazy that this is possible. And keep in mind, the person with only a couple List Demons beat here is the 8th victor. Barely anyone is actually at the skill to do something like this. And looking at the other videos here, there isn't really much levels other than this. Even if we're just looking at like high legacy stuff, there really isn't. There's Sonic Wave, but it is just out of nowhere. We're just seeing this amazing progress. Well, I mean, it's not out of nowhere. You can see there's a ton of progress videos, but just with the time span to go from this to Nullscapes, and not just jump to Nullscapes from some random thing, actually get progress and a bunch of other hard levels in that time, it just doesn't seem real. I want to quickly shout out the Global Hardest's Twitter account, because this is how I found out about this. This is a super cool Twitter account, and just a community in general, that I think way more people should be enlightened about. This thing basically tracks not just all the hardest beat in countries, but also just regions in countries, right? And when I say every country, I mean every country, right? We have this Cambodian player who recently beat Bloodlust as the hardest in Cambodia, which is really cool, right? But then we're even keeping track of stuff. If I go down the way here, like here, Kiribati. We're keeping track of Bloodbath completed by a Kiribati player. And it goes further than that. We can look, they have a spreadsheet here that contains a lot of stuff, not just rated stuff, but also achievements like the original Sari Never Clear, the nerfed version of Cosmos Unleashed, I think, that's still harder than Tidal Wave. At least I think that's what this one is. Okay, wait, I don't think it is. This is just the 68% run that they're considering harder than Tidal Wave, which, fair enough. But the reason I'm pointing this out is because if we go all the way down here, they keep track of everything. Everything. We can go down the list here to the bottom, and we can see that we're keeping track of the Bir El Ater region of Algeria, whose hardest is Retray. That is how deep this goes. This literally keeps tracks of everything. We're keeping track of Cagayan Valley in the Philippines with the hardest Ethereum of Skrillex. Like, this is so in-depth, which is just crazy to see. But yeah, huge shout out to them. I think they need way more attention put onto them. Like, this is such a cool community that, you know, it's got a lot of effort put into them. Look, they keep track of the challenge list, the mobile list, the subdivisions in the mobile list, the 1.9 list, the, was it special entities list? What does this even mean? I don't even know. But, like, bro, this is crazy. Genuinely needs more attention put onto them. How did you get all this info? So yeah, that's all I have to say. Thank you so much for watching all the way. Again, huge shout out to Space for doing this. Apparently, Space thinks they are the top 2 Serbian player, but honestly, you're the number 1. You're the number 1 at this rate, and if you're not already, then literally give it a couple months and progress a bit more, and you could get anywhere in this game. I won't be surprised if we start seeing some like Tidal Wave progress now. Like, this is crazy. Especially considering that Nullscapes is just robot, and the only levels that Space beat other than this is Slaughterhouse, Sukupen Circles, and Acheron, at least ones that are of note, and they barely have any robot, if any at all. So this is just stupidly crazy. I don't really have much more to say. Thanks for watching, and peace.